This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Attacking Blues. I'm your host, Jimmy Funnell, and as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Laurenz Vescoli. Hello, Laurenz.
How are you?
We have actually got a ton to talk about today. There's so much that's happened this past week. We've had to play against Ajax midweek in the Champions League. We won. We played against Burnley at the weekend in the Premier League. We won. And now we are going to be playing against Manchester United on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, also known as the League Cup. Those will be our three main talking points that we're going to focus on. And as such, let's dive straight into this. Ajax away. I mean, they don't get more famous than that, those wins. Frank Lampard's, what a tactical masterpiece, if you ask me. It was fantastic, great team performance. Ajax did threaten at times. You were actually there, so you will have had a glimpse of what happened firsthand. How was it, Laurenz? Take it away. I mean, we want to know.
It was incredible. It really was incredible. I mean, the stadium in itself, first of all, is really good. The atmosphere is very overrated, but you know, the stadium is really good. They do this weird thing of they play like this random song. I don't know what song it is. It's like the Ajax anthem, I think. They play it for like a full 2.5 minutes, but no one sings to it. It's just like this melody, basically. They just play this and they're waving around the little white flags, but nothing else happens. It's just dark and then they play the song. It was a bit strange, but other than that, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, the performance, it was just a really interesting and good game. It wasn't the decision making and, just final third play by both teams was slightly questionable for the entire game, because otherwise that could have easily finished like 3-3 or 3-2 to either team. But it was a fascinating game. Tactically, it was a very brave game by Frank Lampard. I think it proved a lot of people that weren't sure about him, not necessarily Chelsea fans, but from other people, a lot of pundits and that kind of thing. It proved them wrong to an extent about Frank Lampard, because it was good. Lineup-wise, I was hoping for Emerson to start. He didn't. Alonso wasn't incredible, but he did decent enough job. And the whole team, it was just the work rate, the intensity. It was remarkable, really. It was remarkable. And yes, we had some dodgy moments in there. Obviously, they hit the post from the corner, of course, set pieces, even if their tallest player is exactly 6 foot tall and no one else even gets near 6 foot. And that includes both of their centre-backs. Their goalkeeper, but none of their outfield players. And then obviously they scored that offside goal, which was marginally offside. And, I mean, even that only was created by... a silly back pass for Kovacic to Kepa, and then Kepa and Tomori couldn't really sort themselves out. With communication, I guess, we cleared it, throw in, and then the whole chance happened. And then there was the Tomori, mistake very early on in the game. But other than that, Ajax really didn't do that much. And we didn't have that many clear-cut chances, but we had so many moments where just one different decision, one better pass, one better cross in the final third, and we could have absolutely battered them, in my opinion. Hudson-Odoi to me had a poor game in that. Had a poor game against Ajax, because he himself could have probably scored a hat-trick if he gets things right, and probably gets another 2 assists, like seriously. But in the end, who cares? I mean, Frank Lampard makes the 2 substitutions, brings Pulisic on, brings Batshuayi on. Pulisic with a great performance for those 25 minutes he was on the pitch for. Go past people, and then he went past Dest, the American right back, in that situation. Batshuayi lets himself drop back to the cut back cross, I guess, but Pulisic just smacks it into the underside of the bar and in. After he missed an absolute sitter earlier, okay, it was a difficult chance on the dropping volley, but still, when he missed that,
least on target.
A few minutes earlier, and we got the win in the end, and it was big. The celebrations, the limbs, it was absolutely insane. People falling over on top of each other. It was good. I had a great time, and it was a big win, like just in terms of just the group and everything, because obviously head to head, it's about head to head, no goal difference. So we're now ahead of Ajax. So even if we draw at home, it's fine. So very pleased.
Yeah, I think that last point that you're making is absolutely vital. Even if we draw against Ajax at home, things are looking good. And that after we initially lost against Valencia in a game that we really shouldn't have. But that just shows how far we've come since those opening weeks of the season, which is, I personally think, fantastic, of course, as a Chelsea fan. But yeah, I actually wouldn't necessarily agree with the assessment that Callum Hudson-Odoi had a poor game. Did his finishing suck? Yes, it did. It really did. And he has to do better and improve upon that because he has been quite wasteful since coming back from injury. However, I thought he got in great positions. He was able to make quite a lot of space for himself. He showed some trickery. If we're going to slate him for being wasteful, then we have to slate most of the team for, well, not everyone, but most of them during that Ajax game. You know, a lot of players had chances, they didn't take them. Michy Batshuayi is safe from grace. He's given that benefit of the doubt because he scored the goal. Okay, but so he didn't have that fall from grace. That's what I meant. Sorry. But I thought Hudson-Odoi did well, especially in the first half because he was constantly in blimey. And he could have punished. He was out for a long time. I think it was his first Champions League game. I'm not sure anymore against Lille. I think he did play against Lille, didn't he? Didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So okay, fine, but a lot to learn as well. I think it'd be harsh to slate him as some did on Twitter, saying, "Oh, he should have been subbed already in the first half." That's ridiculous. First, what would that do to his confidence? And second of all, that can really destroy confidence if you get subbed in the first half.
He said last year he's as good as Hazard. That he doesn't need nothing destroys Hudson-Odoi's confidence.
Yeah,
he's
but
confident in his own.
if you say those kind of things, that's mostly that you have to compensate. Think of that substitution that Mourinho did with Baba like 5 years ago. What it was against Southampton. Taking him off at that time in the game because he just made a mistake, and this isn't any different. Hudson-Odoi, okay, can't really term it a mistake, but
it's Lampard.
He missed.
It's a different
situation. But why would you take him off? Give him a chance in the first few minutes of the second half. If you take him off, then fine. And ultimately, it was the right.
I agree. I completely agree. Sorry, I just didn't agree with that. I will ruin his confidence, but I agree he shouldn't have been taken off at half time or in the first half. I agree with that.
No player wants to be taken off in the first half, and that can be a bit of an insult. It can destroy your confidence. Maybe it wouldn't have done it with Hudson-Odoi, but I'm telling you that it has happened with players because it is a humiliation, more or less. Unless it is. If you
if you come off at half time, first half, yeah.
No, but I'm talking about the people that were calling for him to be subbed immediately in the first half, the first half. That is ridiculous. And you give the players, especially at his age, a chance to come back in the second half. And ultimately, it proved to be the right decision because he was on the pitch at the time when we were scoring the winning goal. So of course he wasn't included in that move and the build up to the goal, but he was on the right. He was doing his job, and that contributed as every other player on the pitch. So I think that was fine for him to stay on. But yeah, I just want to say about that Ajax performance that I thought we looked shaky at times.
Yeah. But it's Ajax. They're a good team.
Yeah, definitely. That is one of those results that normally last season, for example, it would have not gone our way, or even in the second season under Conte, the last two seasons. Let's summarize it as the last 2 seasons. That's one of those wins that might not have gone our way against the big clubs, you know. Excuse me. Ajax is, for me personally, especially as a Champions League semi-finalist, a big club, and they've got phenomenal players among the ranks. So, in that respect, that is something that really galvanized me as a fan. Apart from just this whole youth revolution and Lampard being back and actually results now, turning it around. It's just against Newcastle the same. I think we already talked about this last week, but the defender deep. We have had problems breaking those kind of teams down in the past. We got the result. That's really, gives me personally a lift and makes me think we're going to do great things still this season.
I mean, personally, I'm not sure about the looking shaky, because to me, Ajax didn't really create much from open play. Like, whenever they had big chances and stuff, it was always individual mistakes that a lot of them come from, like, inexperience, with the Tomori one early on, with Tomori and Kepa having a lack of communication for their Kovacic back pass that then led to the throw-in from which they scored the offside goal. The only one that I can really remember, although at the same time it's 5 days ago now, was when Aspi pulled off that insane block inside the 6-yard box. That was the only time I can remember they really opened us up from open play to have a huge chance. Maybe there was one or two others, but I didn't really get the feeling of being particularly shaky. But then, of course, it's always different watching a game in the ground and watching a game on TV. So we might just have different views on that thing. But on the Hudson-Odoi thing, just quickly, I just can't agree with what you said there. Because if you have so much space and you find yourself in that, and whether that's because of a poor right back, the right back being worse than a left back because Dest is not as good as Tagliafico, or whether it's just good runs and good positioning, and that is good if you have that. But you have to do more with it. Like, I can't excuse him not doing anything with it just because he got into those positions. Like, I can't excuse that. And it's not just the finishing, because he couldn't get past anyone. Pulisic came on and showed how he constantly went past the guy. But Hudson-Odoi barely ever got past this man. I don't know why, but he just always kept making the wrong decisions. Some passed too late, passed too soon, waited too long to start the run. And, everyone can have an off day. It's not like I'm saying Hudson-Odoi is now awful. Of course not. Everyone can have an off day, especially when 18 years of age. Bloody hell. Like, of course. I'm just saying he didn't have a good game, in my opinion. But, of course, I agree. It would be silly to take him off first half. I wouldn't have minded to take him off second half rather than Willian. I was slightly surprised by that. But then Lampard said, Willian was just a bit tired, ran the last few games, played all of the last few games.
He did, yeah.
So that made sense. And also then yesterday, Willian started, Hudson-Odoi started from the bench. So it all made sense in that way. But unless you have anything more to add about the Ajax game, I would like to move to the Burnley game, because that was another really, really interesting game and really interesting win. Surprisingly to me personally, I didn't think we were as good as many other people thought. I didn't think we were as good as Frank Lampard seemed to have thought, which I thought was interesting. When I watched the game, I was like, okay, why are Burnley pressing like this? And why can't we beat that press? That's what I thought for the majority, especially of the first half and the first 5 or 10 minutes of the second half. And then, like, at halftime, I was like, how on earth are we 2-0 up? Of course, Ashley Barnes missed from like a yard out. And the Kepa had that deflection save and everything.
That was really good, that save. I think that's really underrated how good that save actually was, because he was already going down. Yeah. And to make that save still in the position that he was, top notch. Just completely. That.
No, completely agree. But yeah, I thought we really struggled with that press. Not necessarily the defenders and Jorginho and Kovacic, but we just couldn't get it past those, really. I thought there was a slight lack of movement, of less so Pulisic, but Mount, Willian, and Tammy just had an off day. Yes, he was isolated, but he was poor whenever he received the ball, in my opinion, especially in the air. Like, I know he was up against two strong and tall centre-backs, but if you're as tall as he is, you can't not win a single duel up front from a long ball. You can't not win a single one. Like, you need to win at least a couple. So to me, he was poor. But it doesn't matter, because we won 4-2 in the end, and he got an assist. But yeah, I didn't think we were great, but there was moments in which we were incredible. Some of the plays that we had, some of them didn't lead to goals, but they were beautiful. Beautiful movement, beautiful passing. They were great. And those are the ones that Lampard, of course, mentioned, particularly in his post-match interviews, which is good. But just before, I let you basically talk about the game, I was wondering what you thought about the lineup, because I was surprised by the lack of rotation, because we only made one change, and that was Pulisic coming in for Hudson-Odoi. Of course, touch on it later as well, but we'll have to wait and see how much rotation we'll do against Man United in midweek. But I'm slightly worried that we're kind of overdoing it here because people criticize Sarri for no rotating. Yeah, but of course it was Europa League, so he had more opportunity to in that sense. So he rotated way more than Frank Lampard has done so far, bar the Grimsby game, of course. So, I was slightly surprised by that. No idea why Emerson was on the bench, especially when he takes off Alonso, especially when Alonso wasn't injured. So that seems like it was a plan to do that. So why don't you put Emerson on the bench then? It makes no sense to me personally. But yeah, I was just wondering what you thought about the lack of rotation, and then obviously for the rest of the game.
So I think regarding the Emerson situation, on the other podcast that I record, someone made the point that in theory, maybe Lampard is thinking, we've had a few people come back from injury and then get injured again. That has been a recurring theme this season. So does one really want to bring Emerson back against Burnley? Burnley, who are known to be, I'm just going to say my personal opinion here. I think they're a dirty team. I don't like Burnley. I know we've disagreed on Twitter about this, but that's just my opinion. And those Ashley Barnes tackles, as they were on Matic, have happened over the years quite often. Charlie Adam would be perfect for that team. So maybe that's why Lampard thought, why risk it? Marcos Alonso hasn't been bad recently. He has been good at times as well, especially going forward. Yeah. So fine, keep that. I was surprised why he wasn't on the bench because that would have worked the same way. But I actually said in my preferred lineup, I would like him to start Emerson, but in hindsight, I'm glad he didn't. So
yeah, we won.
Maybe he just wanted to give Reece James those minutes because in the end, it worked out. Reece James made that vital double block. I'm not sure, actually. I think the second shot would have been cleared by Kepa, but that first one could have just as much gone past Kepa's legs. Under Kepa, we don't know. It's difficult to say. I've rewatched it quite a few times, but I can't completely make it out. So that he made those vital interceptions, which is very Chelsea-esque. John Terry-like. Just doesn't matter what's going to happen. Reece James is just that kind of player, which is lovely. But yeah, so just wanted to say that on the Emerson situation. And before I continue with the lineup, we're just going to take a short break. This podcast is sponsored by MyBookie as a part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network.
And the best part is, if you join right now, MyBookie will double your first deposit. That's right. If you put in $1,000, they'll give you $1,000. So if you put in $50, they will give you $50. That's double your initial deposit you can use on all your favorite picks.
Use the promo code LATEFEES, one word, to activate the offer. That's promo code LATEFEES in one to double your cash. Visit mybookie.ag today.
You can find the link in the video description or in the episode notes, and you play, you win, you get paid.
Okay, and we are back. I'm just going to start off where I left off, and that was with the lineup. Laurenz, you asked me regarding what did I think about not that much rotation. Yeah, I was a bit surprised as well to a certain degree, but I think Lampard's just thinking to himself that why change a winning system, and in the long term, this might prove to be costly if we have fatigue creep in and injuries, freak injuries happen because of players being overplayed. But at the moment, it's working. There were positions where we couldn't really rotate. We had no other centre backs. We didn't have any other midfielder. Like Billy Gilmour was the only other option, and he's not going to start him. That makes sense. So in those positions, what was he supposed to do? The only other choices he could have had is at striker. I didn't quite understand why he didn't start with either Michy Batshuayi or Olivier Giroud, especially with Burnley being such a physical side. Maybe Olivier Giroud, if we would have put in quite a few crosses, would have worked quite well. But okay. That the striker and the fullbacks, that was the only question mark that actually was the only right back, really, because why not give Cesar Azpilicueta a rest after that phenomenal performance against Ajax? I wouldn't have minded. But okay. So, we are robbed of options at the moment. I think that will improve, but yeah. So that would be my opinion on that matter.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, personally, the right back situation, I said in the preview I did on Blues TV ahead of the game, I said, I understand if you leave Aspie in for that one because Reece James might not quite be experienced enough to deal with the dirty side of Burnley. And that is not a criticism of Reece James and the fighters, but I think with how young the two centre-backs are, I think that was a very understandable decision. And obviously, we don't know the exact fitness situation of Emerson, but Lampard said he's fine. And if he's fine, I would have started him because the whole kicking thing, he had a hamstring problem. Like being injured by a kick by Burnley, that can happen whether you had a hamstring problem before or not. So really, that injury, I guess, danger is just as likely whether you are fully fit for the entire season so far or whether you have been struggling with a hamstring problem because, you can get kicked either way, and the kick isn't going to make you injure your hamstring. Just because of what you said earlier with the resting Emerson just to be safe kind of thing. So I would have started Emerson, and of course you're right. We couldn't do anything for centre backs and midfielders. But yeah, I would have just started Batshuayi. But other than that, what were your thoughts on the game? And of course, especially Mr. Captain America turning up with a hat trick, including a bloody header.
Yeah, that just start right off with that header. I mean, apart from him being pretty surprised himself, I think that he scored that was the third head of his career in all his games. And I thought that was exceptionally well taken. To actually get, the power into the ball from, it's actually been behind you. That is pretty good. I think any player who does that is going to be a bit of luck because if you're doing it like this, then it's difficult to actually place the header, if you ask me, just from a personal experience, but I'm not a professional footballer. But, it's definitely not easy. So even greater emphasis on him doing really well there. I thought Pulisic was just phenomenal there, and I think he's made a case for him to be permanently starting now. I mean, Burnley away is not an easy game. They are a good side, unfortunately. I hope they do get relegated soon, but they aren't bad. So in that regard, Pulisic, Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi for me. Willian's been good, but he wasn't that good in that game. So against Man United, I'd love to play. I'd love to see those two start, but I'm pretty sure that Pedro's going to be playing again because he hasn't been recently, which is good because he's been pretty dire this season. But those two would be the pair that I want to see going forward.
I would certainly want to see that on Wednesday. And then just, I don't know, I think it's good if you have three main starter wingers and just rotate them in and out. So you don't overplay anyone. You make the sub, one time you start those two, next game you start those two. Because the wingers, it's fine. If they constantly keep coming on in the games as well, it's not like you kill their rhythm and everything either. So I would be a fan of that. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. Otherwise, Mateo Kovacic is also one of those players that you have to laud because he was fantastic. I mean, there's that that clip on Twitter making the rounds where he just turns to Burnley players with ease, which he's been doing actually. To be fair,
that was Jesus.
Yeah, to be fair, he's been doing that for a long time, but people have more or less overlooked it and are just now starting to realize what he's actually capable of doing because dribbling wise, if you ask me, he's not far behind Hazard. He really isn't far behind Hazard.
Just slower.
He's slower, but in his ability, that change of pace, bursting forward just from while standing still. Okay, he's not as quick as him. Yeah, I'll give you that. But otherwise, ability wise with the ball at his feet, he's not far behind him. Some might even argue he's on par, but he's definitely not far behind him.
But yeah.
No, I said some. Some would, but he's definitely not far behind him, and that's great to have. Carrying the ball forwards is something that we've been missing over the years, and he's able to do that. And the transition from defense to attack, providing that outlet, to feed our forward players, which was, if you ask me, missing at times last season because he just isn't an LCM in that system. In Sarri ball, he isn't an LCM, and that he was just, I'm not going to say misused, but
his problem was
he
that
was
Kante
wasted.
was injured.
Yeah,
and Kante's injured now, so now he can run.
Yeah, but he was wasted there, and I think even with Kante back, he's going to play in the same position. He's not going to play further forward. I think Lampard knows that that wasn't the right decision in the long term. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to see him there. And anyway, point being, Mateo Kovacic, take a bow. That was a fantastic performance, and he really is showing us why the board were right to buy him. And someone who also said, if he's more than 30 mil, don't buy him. You proved me wrong. And most of the other fans, fantastic, absolute fantastic. And seeing how he, like this. Of course, I'm not going to say, proper Chelsea like someone on Twitter, but I think in a few years' time, he really could be a fan favourite where we say he really embodies this Chelsea gene. Same as with, for example, Christian Pulisic. Did you see that reaction after his first goal? I absolutely adore that. I mean, no, you weren't at the game, of course not. But that was fantastic. You just saw the relief and that passion. I absolutely love that passion, and the whole team is having that. Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham. I'm just adoring every second that we're seeing this season. So, just wanted to say that about the Burnley game still.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree on the Kovacic thing. Him and Jorginho in a double pivot, or even in a three when they keep moving around. They're just so good to watch. They trust each other so much. They know they can pass the ball. No matter how much pressure they're under, they will be able to receive it. They will be able to pass it on. And you have these moments when they're just within like 2 or 3 yards distance between each other. You just take about 5 passes to get around 3 players, just slowly but surely moving up the pitch, being so 100% sure there's no chance of them losing the ball. My only concern for Kovacic in a sense is because he is doing so well, because I just wish he had a goal threat to him, because then he would be such an unbelievable player. Yeah. Because I just can't. He's not at dribbling, yes, but at doing the other thing, he's not as good as Jorginho, in my opinion.
Carrying the ball forward. He's the best in our team.
No, of course. Well,
we need that
after Loftus-Cheek, but yes. I'm saying bar carrying the ball forward. But then in the defensive bit, you have Kante, and then in the goal scoring bit, you can't have him either. So he always has someone in all of what he does that's a tiny bit better than him. We can argue that he's as good, or if you want to argue that point, better than Loftus-Cheek and carrying the ball forward. But Loftus-Cheek has a goal threat after carrying the ball forward. Kovacic doesn't. So that just in itself, if you want to talk about that position, puts Loftus-Cheek ahead of Kovacic in my head, once he's fully fit, of course. So that's kind of my problem. So that's why I'm not sure when everyone is fit where he plays except for rotation. Because I still wouldn't play him over Jorginho, I still wouldn't play him over Kante, and I still wouldn't play him over Mason. I would play him over Mason Mount, even as an LCM at the moment, because Mount has not done much in the last 3 games. He's been poor. So
provided the assists, for example.
But he can take a corner. That doesn't mean he's played well in midfield. But yeah, I'm not saying he was poor. I'm just saying Kovacic was so good that I would play him over Mount, because Mount hasn't.
Forward. I wasn't playing further forward. It just didn't work last season. He needs to be further back, and that's where he's thrived.
No, I agree. But
then we don't have that link. Say of Mount what you want, but he's linking. I do believe he is. I believe he is.
I disagree. I believe that he was linking when he played left wing earlier in the season. Don't think he's linking much in the position he's playing right now. That's why the wingers keep coming in so much at the moment. Just my opinion. Either which way, all I'm trying to say is I don't know where Kovacic fits, and I'm really intrigued to see where Lampard puts them. Another player I need to mention is Kurt Zouma. I thought it was an absolute monster.
Yeah, he was,
an absolute monster. And the way he just frustrated the living hell out of Ashley Barnes was the most beautiful thing I've seen in years. I've never seen Ashley Barnes cry for fouls every 2 minutes. Lampard said it after. Of course, they always want a foul, but usually it's like him kicking everyone in the head with an elbow or with something, and we're like, why is the ref not giving a free kick? And Zuma just absolutely clattered into him every 2 minutes, and it was great. Like when he hit his head on the advertising board and stuff, first thing he does when he comes back, just clatters into Ashley Barnes. It was great to see.
That was good, yeah.
And he didn't even get booked, and he had some great tackles in there as well. Absolutely loved it. And just a quick word on Pulisic from my side as well. Pulisic, sorry. Apparently Americans say it, even though it should just be pronounced Pulisic because it's a Balkan heritage. But, let's just let him say it the American way if he wants to. He was great. He was really, really good. Yes, you can say, Burnley made a mistake. For the header, the defender in front of him didn't jump. Well, that's his problem. The defender slipped. He needed to be close enough. He needed to be willing to press that way to even pick up on that. Then a great run, a great step over to give himself that space. Yes, slightly fortunate to get it past all of those feet and to get it past the keeper who was unsighted, and then to take the deflection for the second goal. But he made that luck for himself.
Exactly.
There is being lucky, and there is making that luck for yourself. Sometimes that's just how it works. And I think it was very good. I really hope that he stays in the side for Wednesday. Ideally, like you said, with Hudson-Odoi, quite possibly with Pedro. For rotation purposes, that would probably make sense. But at the same time, I think with three wingers, you can rotate them enough that you don't necessarily need to start Pedro, but maybe Pedro be the one that comes on. But we'll have to wait and see what Lampard does in that sense. But yeah, I was just pleased. And I just want to touch on the whole Tammy thing, because I just don't understand why he wouldn't start Batshuayi. Like, I thought, okay, he was slightly unfortunate against Newcastle with the Yedlin tackle, but that was late in the game anyway when we had kind of already won it. And I didn't think he was great against Ajax. I didn't think he was great against Burnley. He almost, had Ashley Barnes not missed that sitter, that would have been Tammy Abraham's fault, because he was right with Ashley Barnes as the cross was initially played in, and as the ball came back over the top to the near post, he just completely forgot about him behind him. And I know he's a striker and he's young, and I'm not saying, you're awful now, but I'm saying he should have done better there, and had we conceded, that would have been his fault. And then he didn't do anything forward either, except the assist to Willian, of course. So I didn't really understand why Batshuayi didn't start. I think he would have deserved it after scoring the winner and playing well whenever he's come on recently. I hope Batshuayi gets a start in midweek, and that doesn't mean Tammy Abraham is now dropped. Just rest him. And if Batshuayi plays well again, then he should be allowed to play against Watford as well, because in my opinion, that's how it should work. If you play well, you get to stay in the side. That's the same thing I hope for Christian Pulisic. But yeah, I just want to mention one last thing before we obviously touch on United, unless you have anything else to say on Burnley.
No.
Because I saw a couple of things on Twitter, and I put a tweet out earlier this morning about the whole thing as well, because I saw a couple of people, I'm not saying loads of people, but a couple of people talk about this whole thing of and I've not even told Jimmy that I'm going to mention this, but it's like these people that for a joke call themselves the Lampard cultists and whatever, now saying, how did we praise Sarri? Look at what Lampard's doing with this side. And honestly, whenever I read that, my head is literally 2 seconds before exploding. Like, I can't comprehend how you can have that opinion. I'm not sure whether it's the best analogy, but I tried to make that analogy on Twitter. Imagine you start to learn to play the piano, yeah? And you do that for a year. And then you change your piano teacher after a year. And then 15 months in, you're pretty good. You think the first 12 months did absolutely nothing. Of course, you didn't learn everything you can do in after 15 months. You didn't learn all of that in the last 3 months, did you now? And without Sarri last year, we wouldn't be anywhere near as good under Frank Lampard right now. We wouldn't be anywhere near as good as counter-pressing. We wouldn't be anywhere near as good at playing out from the back. We wouldn't be anywhere near as good at playing a 4-3-3 with Jorginho as the deepest of the midfielders, even though against Burnley was more of a 4-2-3-1, even though it's still always a bit of a mix. We wouldn't be anywhere near as good as that. And these people that say that, Lampard does about 80 to 90% of all of the things they despised about Sarri. No rotation, playing Jorginho as the deepest line midfielder, playing out from the back. Watch that Newcastle first half. You also have that sideways passing in there that you hated so much about Sarri. Did it under Lampard. You have the missing chances thing. The only thing that's different is that he's Frank Lampard and we have some younger players. But could you have started all of Tomori, Mount, Tammy, Pulisic we didn't have, but still, Hudson-Odoi maybe, but all of the others, Reece James, could you have started all of those players at this first game last season? No, Sarri didn't have those opportunities necessarily, because players like Mount, players like Tomori, players like Reece James, players like Tammy Abraham, they still needed that last season was just important for them. And yes, we are now slightly forced into it, slightly just Lampard giving them the chance. But, now it's working. Everything's working now. But it wouldn't be working, in my opinion. I strongly believe that if if Sarri didn't set the foundations for it. And I agree. I said for a while that I would prefer if Sarri stayed for another season, but I said once he left, because we didn't sack him, I thought Lampard was the best choice to take, and everything's going well right now. And yes, it's slightly surprising me, not him necessarily, but the whole team, how well we're playing. 7 wins in a row. I certainly didn't see that coming. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There will be worse runs this season. They are still to come, because they will come. We have a very young team, an inexperienced manager. It has to be up and down. It would make no sense if there's no ups and downs during the season from now to come. So I just wanted to get that point across, because it infuriates me when we just put so much disrespect on someone that won us a trophy, finished third, which gives us around £45 million to spend next summer because we qualify for the Champions League. Let's see whether we manage to do that this year, because, like I say, it's only October, right? So just because we're fourth now doesn't mean we're going to end up there. Like, the gaps aren't that huge. I hope we do, and I think we could. But there's no guarantee just because we're fourth now that we will finish inside the top four. And it's not as easy to say Lampard is now the saviour and, he's so good. And he is good. He's doing good things. But it wouldn't be as good if we didn't have Sarri.
Yeah, I think what one also can keep in mind is that, and this is an example that I say very cautiously, because I'm not saying it's all happened with us. I pray to God that it doesn't. Think of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he came to Man United. The first few weeks or months, he was fantastic. Everyone was saying, "Oh, Ole at the wheel." That's where that meme came out.
Yeah,
it came from, and then it just turned south. So I think
there is that as well. Yeah.
so that it's still early in the season.
Yeah.
We hate November as a club, so
Yeah,
let's wait and see what happens there. Having said that, I really don't hope that it happens. Nothing indicates that it will. But regarding that whole debate, I'm not even going to actually give my opinion in it, because I think it's absolutely redundant talking about Sarri and all these comparisons. And there are some accounts, partially big accounts, that also claim to be journos that are saying, oh, why do we always talk about it? But then they call out people for talking about it. Just ignore them. Don't talk about it. Leave it. There's no point doing that. Just proceed with this season. That is important. Of course, we can talk about Maurizio Sarri and what he did, but in encouraging these, for me, trolls to continue blabbering about this whole comparison between Sarri and Lampard, and it makes no sense for me. That I personally was a fan of Maurizio Sarri and that I supported him until the end. I wouldn't have minded if he would have stayed, but he didn't. So let's move on. There's no point talking about it. And if these people are making comparisons or saying, Sarri didn't contribute to what's happening now, that be their opinion. I don't care. Those people's opinions, for me personally, are relevant. And I say that as someone who really does accept any opinion, even if I personally don't agree with it. But I'm sorry, it's not really adding to the debate now about Chelsea Football Club. It's just continuing to keep that rift alive that was there last season. And it's finally closing. Let it close, just leave it. So, you taking a stand here and talking about that, fine. I'm just not going to do that. That's why I try to go around this and just share my opinion general about it, but not about the topic itself. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
I get you. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm just like, like you say, sometimes it's big accounts and, they share their opinion to a lot of people and they will influence a lot of people's opinion. And I just don't want that opinion to be the majority of people's opinion, because in the end, to me, that will eventually lead to another rift between the fans. And, we're back to a rift between Arsenal fans. So let them have their rift.
Oh, that's Arsenal. That's Arsenal. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And let them have their rift and let's not have a rift between us, because that's just wrong. Like, we don't, like you say, well, I don't agree with the thing. Sarri's not here anymore. Let's not talk about him. Mourinho's not here anymore. We still talk about 04 or 05. So
I'm just talking about in a confrontational way.
I get you. I'm just saying that's what I mean. I'm just stating that in a positive way, Sarri has had a positive effect on us now. I agree that the other people basically say the opposite. So I'm still not just talking about not in a confrontational way, but still, that's all I'm saying. He left. It's fine. Let him do his thing at Juve. But still, to discredit him for anything and to discredit him for winning the Europa League, to discredit him for coming third, it doesn't matter how we finished third. It doesn't matter who played badly or what happened. We finished third. We got into Champions League. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had that incredible win over Ajax that we all enjoyed so much. So give the man the respect that he deserves, as we should with any manager, except the managers that sued us.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, should we just quickly talk about Manchester United? Because, of course, that is the upcoming game in the League Cup Wednesday.
We will do that just after this.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Carol.
And we're the hosts of Retro Late Fee. We are stuck in 1994.
And we can't get out.
We're watching all the movies and TV shows that you probably remember, I guess. Somehow we're speaking to you through some kind of time portal.
Right.
Join us every week for great movies and TV shows from 25 years ago.
It's fun, I swear.
Okay, so Man United. Personally, I'm a bit miffed because I'm unfortunately not going to be able to see it. I hate not being able to see a Chelsea game, but it's just the way it is. I can't change it. But nevertheless, I'm looking forward to the outcome. I hope to see a lot of rotation. That's my expectation. I hope to see Reece James start and rip Man United a new one. I really hope to see Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic start together, and I'm going to continue calling him Pulisic because we're in Europe here. And I hope to see Emerson. I really do hope to see Emerson back. And yeah, that's pretty much it, because we don't have much choice at centre-back again, probably, and the same in midfield. That will stay the same. And Michy Batshuayi for me deserves to start this game. It's not, Manchester United the defence hasn't been as much as a problem as the attack, which has just been crap. That is just ineffective. The defence hasn't been bad, compared to Arsenal, where both has been atrocious recently. Good for us, but so I think it will be difficult, but Michy Batshuayi will be able to penetrate them. So yeah, I think if we start Hudson-Odoi, Batshuayi, and Pulisic, they're going to have a lot of trouble.
I agree. That is the front three that I would hope for. Of course, you mentioned a Pedro thing earlier, which could very well be the case that Pedro gets a start, probably alongside Pulisic in that case. Pulisic, whichever we call it. The only thing, it is the League Cup. Solskjaer said after the draw that a lot of kids will play that game. Obviously, their season hasn't gone well since then, until the Norwich game yesterday. So we'll have to wait and see whether that is still the case, whether he will kind of use that kind of game to try and galvanise the fan base again a bit more, as much as the draw with Liverpool, but that was a late equaliser draw. So a late conceding an equaliser draw. So not as much as it would have done had Dave scored a late equaliser. Maybe he will try to use that game as trying to galvanise the fans again a little bit, and then not rotate so much. That would be the question, because, why not? Like, it's the League Cup. I would love to stay in it because I would love to win it. But then again, of course, a one-off game, everything can happen. But I still don't think we're better than either Liverpool, even though we could have beaten them on 2 occasions this season. And I'm sure we can do the same to City in theory. But I still don't think the likelihood of us winning the League Cup in the end is very big. So I don't really care whether we get knocked out now, or I'd rather get knocked out now than lose the final again, in all honesty. But why not start Gueye? Why not start Billy Gilmour? Because we need some rotation in there. Kovacic can stay in there, even though he had that minor injury, but he didn't play all of the games. Jorginho needs a rest. Mason Mount really, really needs a rest. So maybe even play Pedro as the 10 or Pulisic as the 10, just to somehow give Mount a rest in a 4-2-3-1, with Gilmour and Kovacic as a double pivot, because Mount needs to rest. I think Jorginho needs a rest, and I wouldn't mind if one of the centre backs got a rest next to Gray as well. But I agree with the Emerson, Reece James, Batshuayi, and of course the front three. Whether we put Caballero or Kepa goal doesn't really matter. Goalkeepers don't get tired, or they shouldn't. So that's the kind of lineup that I hope for, I guess. And for the game, a lot of it will depend on what Man United do, how much they will rotate. But also, Man United will be difficult for us. You know, they struggle against Belgrade, they struggle against Astana, they struggle against whoever the hell they struggle against and keep losing against. But if there's one thing that's pretty decent at the moment, as seen at the game against Liverpool, in which they were the better team for a large part of that game, in my opinion, they're pretty decent at defending and they're hitting on the break. And because we're just a better football team, that's going to be what they're going to try at Stamford Bridge. That's pretty much how they beat us 4-0 at Old Trafford. So let's try to not make silly mistakes like that, and let's try to just be wary of their counter-attacks and hopefully manage to break them down, because I don't really want to lose to them. I don't care whether we smack them 4-0 or whether we scrape it at 1-0, but I want to beat them. So let's do that. And it's just a difficult game to predict because it's impossible to tell what lineup both teams are going to turn up with. So it's a tricky one. Much trickier than if we face them in the league, for example, or in the final.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everyone wants to win against Man United. There is that rivalry that we have going between us. I think, I already made a prediction that we draw, and then as it goes directly to penalties, we win on penalties, which would be nice because
I'll take it.
I'll take that as well. But also, after 2008, I don't think we've actually played against them on penalties. Yeah, since then. So that would be good.
We're not.
I don't think so. No, I don't think we have, apart from the Community Shield. But that's about it. And who cares about the Community Shield? Because I know we did play against. We did go to penalties in the Community Shield once, where Zirkov took a penalty. I don't know why that's,
Didn't we
stayed in my mind, but
the same, the season where we were 3-0 up and then lost, drew 3-3 in the league, and then we played them in the League Cup 3 days later or 3 days before. Didn't that end us in winning in penalties, or did we win 3-2 in extra time because there was still extra time? Either which way, it doesn't really matter. Because we always want to get revenge on them on penalties, even though nothing will get revenge in the Champions League final except the Champions League final. So, a League Cup, what is it? 4th round, 5th round, whatever round it is. What exactly? Make up for it, but yeah, whichever way we win, if we win, I'm happy. But other than that, I don't think I don't have anything more to say. Do you have anything more to say, Jimmy?
Not really, no. Yeah.
So I think we're going to leave it here, guys. Of course, thank you guys for watching, or thank you guys for listening. We really do appreciate whatever platform you use to listen to it. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like, rating if you enjoyed the video. Leave a good general rating on iTunes if you listened over there. Follow us on iTunes and Spotify. Of course, the links to everything are down in the description and in the episode notes and everything. Just find us everywhere, as well as on Twitter, both the Attacking Blues account and of course also Jimmy's and my personal, just personal accounts, I guess. Follow us on those. That would be massively appreciated. And it's been a very, very good week. It's 7 wins in a row. We beat Ajax, we beat Burnley. Now it's on to Man United. Then it's Watford on Saturday, who seem to give other London teams a struggle, with the Spurs and Arsenal both dropping points to Watford. But ideally we won't, and that would make it then 9 wins in a row, which would be incredible if obviously United goes the way we want it to go. But we'll probably hear you after that again. Thank you guys for listening. Up the Chelsea, keep the blue flag flying high, and we'll see you next time.